All right, as it is, third time's a charm generally with me. Okay, so hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Yoga Hippie, aka Kristina, or would that be Kristina, aka Yoga Hippie? I don't know. Okay, so I live in my Prius if you don't know me, and I choose to do that on purpose. And so far, it's been great, and it's saved me thousands of dollars. So I'm an aspiring van lifer, I guess, but I really like a lot of things about my Prius. So I'm not in a huge hurry to get out of my car necessarily. And I get lots of breaks when I travel and visit people and house sit and dog sit and all that kind of shit. So it's all good. Excuse my French. What I want to talk about today is I'm going to have a story time, and today story time is about legacies. So my friend died unexpectedly a couple years ago, and he left an amazing legacy. He was massively involved with, or obsessed, I guess, with a company called Live a Great Story. And he had the phone case that said Live a Great Story, and he had a million posts about Live a Great Story, and stickers, Live a Great Story, that had shirts that said Live. I mean, he was just obsessed with it, seriously obsessed. And he was a great guy, and he did live a great story. And so much so that the Live a Great Story company, if you put his name in the coupon box, Eric Jansen, if you put his name in there, it will, they will give 100% of the proceeds to his kids' college fund. It's pretty amazing. So he was a photographer, and he touched a lot of people's lives, and with his passion for photography, and in particular photographing, and making videos in abandoned places and high up on buildings and things like that. So there's an entire event that was inspired by him, that he actually started, and now it's continuing, and it's growing, and it's huge, and it's in Memphis, where I'm from. That's where he was from. I think it's called the Grind City Meet, and it's for these photographers who get together and photograph abandoned buildings and graffiti. And anyway, all these people have been touched now from this one person, right? So it made me really think about life, and how we're just, on this road, and anybody can die, right? So that brings me to what I'm going to tell my story about, was about my dad. So I haven't told any stories on here about my dad, but I'm definitely going to start because I think it'd be great to document on film for my kids and their kids and whatever, down the road, history of great stories about my dad and the legacy that he's left. So my dad inspired me in many ways, and I was very close to him, and it was very, very traumatic when he passed. And so he died when I was almost 16, and like 3 months before my 16th birthday. And my dad was a very unique man. He was very eccentric. He was a very tall man. He was 6'4", and he did a lot of things in his life. And he was the president of Precision Optical Lab. And that's how I came to live in Memphis, was because I was born in Kentucky, in Paducah, Kentucky. And we moved. My dad's from Kentucky, and my mom's from Missouri. But anyhow, we ended up moving to Memphis so that he could start this company for these investors, right? And he opened it in 1974, and it's still in operation. And the vice president is now the president of the company, and has been ever since my dad died. So that's pretty amazing right there, that this company my dad started is still in operation. So one day I was about 21, and I was going to the pool at my apartment complex, and I was engaged to be married. And interestingly enough, I was obviously thinking a lot about my dad, because my dad and I talked a lot about my one-day wedding. And he had a million, ideas, and he would go to New Orleans a lot with my mom, and he came back one time and showed me all these pictures of this girl who got married, and each one of her bridesmaids had like a carriage that she rolled up in, and they were all wearing antebellum dresses, you know, from the South. And I was totally into all of that when I was growing up because I was obsessed with that Gone with the Wind movie, and Scarlett O'Hara. And anyway, so my dad was saying we were going to do that, you know, everybody was going to have their own carriage, and I was going to be a princess, right, on my wedding. And I was a princess. But so this was a big deal. And then of course my dad wasn't there for it. And I got married at 22 and just a few months after my 21st birthday. So I was thinking about my dad a lot and wishing that he was there for the planning of it all. And I was in the midst of planning my wedding, and I don't know, I just go to the pool one day, and there's one other person there, some guy, you know, and I just talk to people, and I'm friendly like that. And so I was like, hi, how are you? I started up a little conversation with him, and he was very polite, and you know, we were both off or whatever that day, and I was like, where do you work? And he said, I work at this place, you know, out of town. It's kind of up the ways from here or whatever. And, you know, it's in Galloway. And that's where my dad's company was, in Galloway or Arlington, Tennessee. And I was like, oh yeah? What's the name of your company that you work at? And he said, it's just an optical lab. And I was like, Precision Optical? You work at Precision Optical? And he goes, yeah, how have you heard of that? And I said, well, because my dad started it. He was the president of the company. And he just looked stunned, right? I'll never forget his face. And I almost always tear up when I tell this story because it was a really amazing moment for me. So I said, yeah, you know, that was my dad. And he was like, Jack Long was your dad? I was like, yeah. And he said, wow. I just want to tell you, you know, just yesterday, some of the old timers were talking, and they were telling Jack stories again. He goes, you know, sometimes they'll sit around and tell stories about your dad, and tell just, you know, they all just crack up laughing, and, you know, they just have the best time ever talking about your dad and telling stories about things he did. And I was like, really? That's amazing. And then he said, I really wish I could have met your dad. He sounded like a wonderful man. And I was like so touched by that, obviously. I'm still very touched by this story. And it was like in 1992. But my dad definitely touched a lot of people, you know, and he was a special guy. And lots of people do tell Jack stories. He was a lot of fun, and I have a lot of great stories to tell about my dad. And he was one of a kind, for sure. Larger than life, and always the life of the party. So, you know, I hope to leave a legacy for my kids like that, and leave an impression in the world. It's a big, big world, right? With lots of people. And if I can make an impression, a good one, you know, in the world, that would feel or be awesome. And I would love to do that for my kids, leave a legacy, and it be a great legacy, you know, something that my kids can look back on and remember me in good ways and feel good about it. So, you know, everything that we do, and all the choices that we make, really impact those around us. And life is short, and I live in a little bubble a lot of times, you know, like a bubble of positivity and, you know, just happiness. And there's like all this weird stuff coming in from the light. See if I can figure out the lighting. So I don't look at this part of the camera. I'm gonna have to hold it. Sorry about that. I have to look over here on the side of the camera, so I couldn't even see that all this was shining. I hope I don't have to redo that. So now I'm holding my camera and looking over here. But anyway, I mean, everything that we do creates our legacy, you know, and I've definitely made plenty of really bad decisions and was well on my way to leaving the worst legacy ever, you know, like seriously terrible. And I'm really thankful that my life's different. But what I was saying about living in a bubble is like, you know, when I encounter people who don't live their life in a positive way and they're not, you know, trying to be uplifting or positive, or they are victims, or, you know, a lot of negative type of behaviors, I'm almost like in shock. Like I'm like surprised. Like today I went to People's, right? I went to this organic market that I go to all the time, and I am making a day in the life video, but I'm in the midst of it and I'm not finished with it. I have some things I want to add to it. So, and then I'll have to compile it. But like today, I just went up there to get a tea and, ooh, yeah, drink my tea. I went up there to get tea and a fruit. I got some fruit. And the guy checking me out, his spirit name is Zen. And every time, so I stood there waiting, you know, because he was busy embracing a colleague or a friend. They were just hugging. And I was like, how can you be mad? You can't be mad. Like, there was no part of me that was mad. I was just sort of like, where's that guy, you know? And I look over and they're just like holding each other in front of the pastry counter. And I was like, what a great place. And then he walked up and he's like, how are you today? And I was like, I'm great, Zen. How are you? And he's like, I'm wonderful. It's a happy Tuesday. And I was like, thanks, happy Tuesday. And then he's like, can I get your owner number? And so he's like, Kristina, I need to remember your name. I want to remember your name. I'm like, well, I know I remember your name because you have that Zen name and it's so different, you know. And you and I talked about spirit names and what would mine be, and I still just can't ever decide on one because the only one I like is Love. And so he was like, that's a great spirit name. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you don't usually pick your spirit name. Somebody picks it for you, I think, and then you aspire to be that name, right? And anyway, so he's like, what's your intention for the day? So I was like, productivity. I want to be productive today. And he was like, awesome. That's a great one. And there's two people behind me and we're just having this conversation. And he's like ringing my stuff up. And, you know, like, that's not normal. That's not a normal life, but that's the life I live. That's where I live. I go to that place like 2 or 3 times a day, and I love all the people there. Everybody's super chill, and I love Ocean Beach, and I choose to live here. But what I'm saying is that's a serious bubble of not the rest of the world, right? Because a lot of people are downtrodden, I guess, and sad and, you know, not happy. So anyway, I want to like encourage you to think about what your life is and how you live your life and how you impact those around you and the type of legacy that you would leave when you die. I think I'm on the track to leaving a pretty good one now. So I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day and that you felt inspired in some way by this video. And I'm going to tell some fun stories about my dad in the future that don't make me cry, that make me laugh, because that guy, he was so awesome. So for now, I will get out of here and hopefully see you guys next week or over the next couple of weeks. I'm traveling to Tennessee, to my hometown in Memphis, to visit my mom and aunts and a cousin and some old friends and my kids. And then I'm going to be going to Panama Beach, Florida for a couple of days, and then meeting up with my kids in Texas and caravanning with the two of them part of the way to San Diego. So my daughter is a full-time RVer, and she's going to be stopping off in Arizona, and my son is moving to Salem, Oregon. So fun times. I'll try to video. Maybe I'll introduce you to my kids because they're totally interesting and very different from each other. So that might be a fun time. All right. I hope you have a great day. Peace.